Hello, my name is Scott McCollum. I'm here to do a presentation on bicycle basics and commuting today. Um, I've been working in the bicycle industry for about 21, 23 years, something like that. I'm a full-time, year-round commuter, and so I'm going to give you some information today. First thing I'm going to talk about are bicycle types.
Hello?
And we have a couple of different types of bicycles. I brought one with me today. I brought a road bike. We can see here that the bike has drop style handlebars. There are also hybrid style bikes, which have about the same width of tire as this one, which is about an inch and 3/8 wide, but a more upright riding position, sort of straight style handlebars. There's also the mountain bike that we're all familiar with, larger 2-inch wide tires, also with the straight handlebars. There are also cruiser bikes, same size tire, but a little bit more beach looking. Each of those bikes has their own benefits. Some it's for position, either in a more upright riding position, or the tire size that makes it a little bit more usable, which is on the handout that you can get. In terms of accessories for your bike, Wisconsin state law requires that you have a headlight, which can be seen at 500 feet. I have two. The state law also, or the state law only requires a rear reflector, but I highly recommend having a light that can be seen from the back to enhance the ability of drivers to see you when they're approaching from behind. So I would recommend both front and rear lights. Locks are a good thing to have. You'll want to stop somewhere. You'll want to pick up food. You may have to lock up your bike outside of where you work. So a good durable lock is a good thing to have. You'll want to lock the frame itself to something solid. If you have the quick release style wheels, you'll want a cable to go through the wheels, and you can do so by taking the cable going through the front wheel, going through the rear wheel, tie it into your lock, and locking your bike up. Your frame is secure, and your wheels are secure as well. There's also the coil type locks. These are more difficult because they're pre-coiled to pull through the wheels, because the coils will want to hang up on the spokes. They also tend to be more easily cut than a good solid U-type lock. It's important to lock both wheels. Some people are afraid of the gears in the back, and so therefore they'll only lock their front wheel. But just because you're afraid of removing a rear wheel, a bicycle thief isn't necessarily as afraid. It'll only take 8 to 10 seconds for that rear wheel to disappear. So it's a good idea to lock both. If you have a quick release style seat post, don't take the greasy seat post and seat in with you. You can get what's called a seat leash, which is like a mini cable that goes around your frame and goes up around the seat. It's something that you install and just leave it there. You don't have to put it on, every time you come to a stop. We're also not minimalist. We have clothing. We're maybe going to stop at the gym before or after work. If the weather's changing, we may have to add a layer or shed a layer depending upon the weather of the day. We may have to carry books or a laptop. So having a rack, and a bag or basket on your bike helps you carry things. Today I had 2 sweaters on, a pair of gloves, and a hat. And when I rode over here, I was down to just 1 sweater. So I have to carry those other items with me somewhere. Fenders. There are a number of different types of fenders. There are shorter clip-on style fenders, which are very easy to install. A great quick way to keep a little bit of water off of you. There's also full fenders, like this bike has, and those are typically more expensive fenders. They take a little bit more time to install, but as far as protection from the rain, I stay completely dry because it controls the water almost from the ground all the way up. So definitely a better thing, and I just leave them on all year long. It doesn't slow me down any noticeable amount. We'll move on here. I'm going to talk about clothing. Today I'm not wearing pants, but one of the first things we may want to do is to keep our pants cuffs out of the way of the chain. We've got this Velcro strap that has a reflective material on it, and we can just take and fold our pant cuff over, attach that to our ankle, and it keeps our pants out of the way. But really, we should start at the top, which is the helmet. A good helmet is important. A good, properly fitting helmet is even more important. The helmet should sit square on your head like this. It should be adjusted so that there's little or no movement. And then when the straps are adjusted properly, the strap should not bow. They should come straight down your face. One of the things that can happen in an accident is that the helmet can get pushed, and if you have that bow in your straps, the helmet can rock back and expose the frontal lobe of your head. So a good, properly fitting helmet is important. Let's see, gloves. Gloves are also a nice thing. Here's a typical padded glove. This one's a summer glove. It's got a breathable back. Gloves will not only give you a little bit of cushion from the padding, but if you should fall, it'll protect you from abrasion. When you meet the pavement. There are also full-fingered gloves. which are great for when it gets a little bit colder. Also a little bit of padding, but definitely keeps your hands a little bit warmer. This pair of gloves here it was probably good into the low to mid 50s for temperature. Here's a little bit heavier glove, also full fingered. This glove will get you down into the low 40s, high 30s temperature wise. And the last couple of gloves that I have here the left glove. We have a full fingered glove, a very warm glove. My hands actually started to heat up right now just after I've put this on. Here's another type of glove. This is called a lobster glove. The advantage of this type of glove is that it allows you to wrap 2 fingers around the handlebar and have 2 more fingers that you can work your brake lever with. So it helps give you a little bit of control, and by pairing up the fingers, it works like a mitten and keeps your fingers warm that way. So different routes you can go for gloves. Let's see. We'll continue on with cold weather. If you're wearing your helmet, when you're wearing your helmet, you can get a skull cap like this, and that'll help keep your head and your ears warm. And it's thin enough that you can get it on underneath your helmet. So, good way to keep your ears and your head warm where you lose a lot of heat. Another thing that you can do in addition to that, which also acts as a protective cover from the elements. Should be like one of the bake shows where they have the pre-made cakes that come out of the oven. But you can get a helmet cover. The helmet cover will not only keep out the rain and snow, but again will act as another boundary layer to help keep that heat from escaping while you ride. Some helmets like this don't come with helmet covers, so you buy one as an extra. This one has its own built-in helmet cover that can be removed for warmer weather. So that's on top. There are other hat options if it's really cold. This is what's called a balaclava, and this is also very thin, allows you to breathe, and will help keep your neck warm as well. There are also hats that are a little thicker. And notice how it covers the ears. So there's different ways to keep your head warm, and some that work well with helmets. Also in the wintertime or colder weather, we're going to want to keep warm, so we'll need a base layer, and usually like a wool base layer works best. the great thing about wool is that it's warm. It has excellent wicking properties, so it pulls that moisture away from your skin so that you don't get cold from your own sweat. On top of that, maybe a long sleeve shirt, sweater, just a few things that you would normally do anyway, given the type of weather that you're riding in. It's also a good warm coat. You can also take a rain jacket and put that on top of the coat that you already have on, and that will help cut the wind and also keep out the moisture, whether it's rain or wet snow that day or things like that. And you can do the same with the pants as well. That'll be an extra layer to help keep heat in and the wetness to a minimum as you're riding to work. So a good base layer. Again, I recommend wool, and some of today's merino wool is very skin friendly. It's not scratchy. So it's good that way. Rain, we've already touched on a couple of items. A rain jacket, cycling specific clothing in terms of jackets and rainwear are usually cut a little bit longer in the back. That way they help cover the back of you when you're riding, help keep your pants dry. This particular jacket has an additional flap that comes down even lower to keep you dry. Also on the top, there's what's called a rain cape, and it looks like that poncho that we wore when we were kids. But this also has some cycling specific features. It's much longer in the back. It has ties on the inside that come around your waist to help keep it from billowing as you're riding. It's like a huge tent, and so when you're on your bike, it'll cover your hands, it'll cover your back. And so you're 100% covered from the top. And with the full coverage fenders that I talked about a minute ago, you really have almost no water coming up from the ground, and you're well protected from the top. So rain capes are very effective. We've had a rather rainy spring here in La Crosse. I could probably count the number of raindrops that actually made it on me. It really works quite well. There's another product out. Instead of having a full rain pant like this, this is actually the brand name. It's called Rain Legs, and it's something that goes on, comes down to just over the knees, and if you've ever noticed when you're out riding that the tops of your legs get wet and pretty much the rest of it stays dry. So Rain Legs are something that just goes right over the top of your clothing very easily. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about bicycle fit. One of the things that's really important when we ride is to be comfortable. When it's comfortable for us, we're efficient, and we'll enjoy it a lot more. If we have a bike position that we feel too stretched out, or if the handlebars are too close to us, we'll tend to straighten our arms. And when we ride, most of the shock is transmitted through the front of the bicycle. So if our arms are rigid, we'll feel that shock in our wrist, our elbows, shoulders, neck, back. So it's important to be able to ride with bent arms, whether we're in a more upright position or in a lower, more racing type position. So being able to be comfortable on the bike really helps us out a lot. It's important that you don't try and make up for a bad position by changing one factor, because you'll probably make something else a little bit worse. People that tend to feel too stretched out on their bike will tend to move the seat forward. The seat has a straight section of the rail, and you can slide the seat forward. And you can do that to a certain point for your particular body, but if you just push it all the way forward, what that tends to do is to transfer your weight forward, and you feel like you're falling, so you compensate by straightening your arms out. You're back to the same problem of your arms being locked. It's also important to ride with good saddle height. If you ride with a low saddle position, you're only using one of 4 muscle groups, which are your quadriceps. You're not making use of your glutes, your hamstrings, or your calves. Riding with a low saddle position is also more of an anaerobic workout than aerobic. So you're not as efficient with the oxygen that you're taking in, and when you get to be a little bit older and you've done some stupid things in your life, your knees might not be in the condition that they were. A low saddle height tends to put a lot more pressure on the cartilage in your knees, so bringing that saddle height up also helps preserve your knees as well. So I hear the complaint, but I don't feel comfortable not being able to just put my feet down when I come to a stop. And what I encourage you to do is to raise your seat up, and when you come to a stop, take your down leg, which is on the pedal, and step forward off of that so that you're stepping forward and down, so that you're now in this part of the bike when you come to a stop. And likewise, when you get going, bring your pedal up just a little bit so that you can push off with the pedal, and then take your down leg again and lift yourself up onto the seat to get going. So that's the way to start and come to a stop with that higher saddle position. Let's talk a little bit about rules of the road. There are a number of rules that are specific to bicycles in Wisconsin statutes. One is that and actually this is for motorists in their relationship to bicycles. But when a motorist passes a bicyclist, they should give us 3 feet of clearance. So any closer than that, and they're endangering you, and it's against the state law. But the primary thing to think about when you're operating a bike on the street is to operate it just as you would your car. Signal for right-hand turns, signal for left-hand turns. The old rules for signaling is right turn, left turn, and stop. And we've added where you can use your right hand to point to where you're going. So left turn, right turn. So we can do that now. But other than that, you should ride as far to the right as it is safe to do so. If the pavement is bad, right up at the edge of the pavement, ride out a little bit. If you lose control in one of those bad, rough areas, then you're putting yourself in harm if you crash out into traffic. So take an appropriate place in the lane so that you are safer. Use left-hand turn lanes, use right-hand turn lanes, stop at stop signs, stop at stop lights. If you operate your bicycle as you would your car, you're going to be in the most safe place to be. Riding on sidewalks, there's an ordinance against riding on sidewalks in downtown La Crosse. But because of our winters, we have very wide residential streets, and we have plenty of room for cars and bicycles in these wide street lanes. So, take that spot in the street. Are there any questions?
Well, what advice would you give somebody who hasn't been a commuter but is thinking about starting? Any suggestions for?
And that's a great question. I've shown you a lot of gear here today, and there's certainly a sizable initial cost in getting going and bicycling if you don't have one already. But if you look at the bicycling year as the primary months, May, June, July, August, it's warm. We can typically ride with less clothing, things like that. What I tell people is think about expanding your season in both directions. So you're going to have spring rains. You're going to have some rain in the fall. There's probably already clothing that you have at home already without being cycling specific. Figure out what of that clothing will work for you. Expand your season out just a little bit. If it's about 10, 15 degrees colder, that'll take you out another, month or so, and buy the appropriate clothing. So you probably already have a sweater at home or light jacket. No problem. The jacket may not be cut like a cycling jacket is, but to get you going, it'll do fine. So you don't have to make a huge investment, on top of the bike investment in a bunch of specialty clothing. If you're saying, all right, I'm going to start a little bit earlier this spring. I want to be in great shape by the fitness festival to do the ride there. You may get caught in the rain. Get yourself a rain jacket. And just buy what you need. If you're going to keep pushing it so that you in essence, ride the entire year, then you can spend a little bit more getting those specialty items to sort of round out the whole year. But start small, buy things as you need them.
We have a question on Prairie du Chien.
Go ahead.
Can you help us determine what is the right saddle height?
That's a difficult question to ask. There are some mathematical computations for saddle height, and I believe that it's 86% of your inseam. But I wouldn't bother writing that down. One of the things that greatly affects our saddle height is our flexibility. If I said to you, bend over and touch your toes, even if you could touch your toes or even put your fingers on the floor, you're only about halfway in terms of flexibility. If we take somebody who's a modern dancer, or somebody or a gymnast who's highly flexible, they can double over completely. That's one end of the range. I have when I do bicycle fitting at Smith's, the bicycle shop where I work, I have people that their fingers end up about 18 inches off the ground. That's very poor flexibility. If I was to take a goniometer, which is a device for measuring the angles of joints, a person with good flexibility is going to have about a 25-degree knee bend when our foot is at the bottom of the pedal stroke. If I have somebody who has exceptionally poor flexibility, I'm going to recommend probably a 35 to 40 degree knee bend at the bottom of the pedal stroke. So if you're not good at stretching, or have been in an accident, there's various things that happen in our lives that have an effect on even getting old. I don't have the flexibility I had 20 years ago. So those are bigger factors in determining saddle height versus actually giving you a number to punch into a calculator and come up with a specific number. So, but if you are, and you can do this test yourself, bend over, touch your toes. Well, my fingers are about 4 inches off the ground. So if I was doing a bicycle fitting for myself today, I'd probably set that saddle height so that I had about a 35-degree bend at the knee with that goniometer. So that should be a good indication for you. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Does it matter? You had talked earlier about the different types of bikes, the mountain bike and the handlebars you have. That doesn't matter as long as it's a good fit. Is that correct, or for a community?
Right.
Okay.
A good fit is really the ultimate thing. Not to talk too much about maintenance, but when people come in and say, should I invest money in this old bike to fix it up? My first question to them is, does the bike fit you? If it doesn't fit you, it's not worth it. If it doesn't fit you, can it be made to fit you? And then we're looking at additional costs to make that bike fit properly. one of the things with the chart that's on the back of the handout is that in this matrix here, there are two letters, T and P. One is tire, and the other one is position. And so when you look at the matrix and it says you want to ride longer distances, under hybrid, it'll show T. It's got a little bit narrower tire, still about 1 3/8, like I said before, and also road bikes, which are narrower tires yet, and also position. So if you're going out on that longer road ride, you may not want to sit bolt upright and catch every bit of wind, but maybe be down a little bit. So positioning doesn't necessarily mean more upright or more laid down, but it's certainly a factor one way or the other in terms of position, and also tire type. So if you ride off of curbs, you'll see that mountain bikes and cruisers, because of their very fat tires, have a T by them. It means that tire is a little bit bigger, more air volume, will take that smack when you ride off the curb. So if you look at the chart on here, that'll help give you a better idea of what your potential is with any of the different types of bikes.
Prairie, how many people do you have? I can get some of the handouts down to you. That might be the two ladies that left. There was 2 of them, so I'll send it down. I'll send some handouts down to them.
How about you? Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Thanks, Scott.
All right.